Back around 2014, Hot Wheels released a pink 55 Bel Air gasser called the Candy Striper for its RLC members. If you're unfamiliar, the RLC is the Red Line Club. You pay about $25 for your 1-year membership, and they send you an exclusive car, a patch, and several other items. When you're in the club, you get a first shot at buying limited run cars. These cars are the nicest cars that Mattel makes by a wide margin. As such, they can command high prices. However, a lot of times these cars become highly sought after and can command extremely high prices on the secondary market. This pink Candy Striper is one of those cars. In many cases, the castings Mattel makes for the RLC are exclusive to the RLC. In other words, they're not mainline castings. But the Candy Striper is not an exclusive casting, it's a mainline car, so making a Candy Striper is possible using the 55 Bel Air gassers that Mattel produces. And that's what this video will be about. I want to try and reproduce the RLC car from a mainline car. Now, a little bit of lamp shading. This is my first go at this, and I plan on giving it another try using what I learned from this casting. I'll go over some of the issues I encountered later in the video. For this car, I needed a metal base model, and since those are a bit more expensive and have much nicer paint, I decided to use the body from a mainline gasser and then swap the bases. This way I could keep the nicer paint model. I'm going to assume that you've watched some of my previous videos and are familiar with the common techniques I use in practically every video. For this car, I'm just going to show in detail the more interesting aspects and where things are different. The first thing I will do is remove the paint with the aircraft paint stripper. This is also why I chose to go with a mainline body. Mattel typically clear coats their pop culture and higher end cars. This clear coat is almost impervious to most paint strippers, while the mainline cars are not an issue. Once I have the paint removed, I'll begin the metal prep work. This is a major time vampire. As I've said in the past, Mattel relies heavily on the paint to cover up casting imperfections. Since I'll be using transparent paint, I have to clean up and fix all these casting issues. This is done with an assortment of tools, but primarily with needle files, emery boards, and sanding sticks and needles. Earlier I said that Mattel didn't use exclusive castings for the Candy Striper. However, I do think they use exclusive molds for it. These molds, I would guess, are of a much higher quality than the mainline molds. Castings produced from these molds probably came out near perfect compared to the mainline castings. I think this because there's no way Mattel could start from what I'm starting with here and produce an RLC car. After a few hours of sanding, the casting is ready for zinc plating. Here I'm going to use the zinc plating as a filler for the really small scratches and pits that I couldn't remove from the body. I'm not going to bore you with the repetition. I plated this body 5 times, each at 30 minutes. After each plating session, I would remove the casting and go over it with some 4/0 steel wool to lightly sand out any plating imperfections. I did this for each session except the last. I wanted to try something out a little different here, as I've been having some issues seeing sanding lines under my paint. So instead of sanding the zinc, I moved to polishing it with a buffing wheel and polishing compound. Once again, it's not the polishing wheels you get with every Dremel. You have to special order them. They are much softer than the standard polishing wheels. The latter will leave scratch lines in your metal. Going straight into the buffing worked out great, however I still needed to use some steel wool in detailed areas like around the headlights, as the buffing wheel couldn't get into these areas very well. After cleaning the casting with dish soap and water and then a degreaser, I moved to painting. Here I used the new hot pink color from the Red Line shop. I applied 4 coats, and then for some reason on the last coat something happened with my airbrush and I messed up the paint. So I ended up removing all the paint and starting over. The second time I didn't encounter any issues and the paint came out nice. I will say that for some reason the paint did not cure in the normal 24 hours and took almost 72 hours to cure. I may have gotten my hardener to paint ratio off, but eventually it did cure. With the paint finally cured, I could move on to applying the decals. This car has a lot of decals, with most of them being very small and impossible to apply on camera and not mess them up. But the process is simple. You cut them out, you drop them in water, you slide them off the backing paper onto the car, move them into place, and then apply a setting solution to dissolve them. I'll put a link in the video description to another video where I go into more detail. One thing to note about this particular decal sheet is the stripes that go onto the roof are white. You really want to get decal sheets with pink stripes. I'll go into why later. Next I'll go to clear coating the car to bury the decals under the clear coat. This will protect the decals and give them a glossy look. I applied 3 coats of the clear Spectraflame paint to build up a nice glossy layer. I want a rather thick layer as the next step will be polishing the clear coat, and I want a lot of clear coat to get a really nice polish. Here again I'm using a buffing wheel and polishing compound, not rubbing compound. With the paintwork mostly done on the body, I can turn my attention to the interior plastic. Most of the Bel Air castings have chrome interiors due to the engine needing to be chromed. The RLC models have chrome engines but white interiors, so I need to mask off the engine and the bumper and then paint the interior white. This is easily done with an airbrush. After I'm done with the white paint, I'll move to black and then paint in the front grille. Before the black paint dries, I'll use a paper towel soaked in some acrylic thinners to remove any overspray on the chrome trim around the grille. After the paint dries, I'll clear coat the interior with Testor's Gloss Clear Coat to protect the acrylic paint. Next, I'll begin working on all the small details on the body. I'll start with the headlights and paint them in with a chrome pen. For the taillights, I'll use red enamel and paint them on with a toothpick. Now, I don't actually own one of these cars and have been going off photo references. While I was checking on my work, I discovered that the radiator was painted black. I masked this off and then painted it black with an acrylic primer, but normally I would have wanted to paint this before I applied the clear coat. Once all this is dried, I begin putting the car back together. So a couple things I'm sure people familiar with this car will pick up on. One has to do with these stripes. This decal sheet I bought has white stripes. This means that you have to paint the roof pink. As such, there's a pink gap between the stripes and the windows of the car. This pink gap is not on the original car, which has a white gap indicating a white roof with pink stripes. What you want to do is paint the car pink, then paint the roof white, and then apply pink stripes over the white paint for the correct look. They do sell decal sheets with pink stripes, and this is what you'd want to buy if you want a more correct look. Second, the original car has silver trim around the windows. I didn't apply this as I need to work on that skill. I don't feel like I could get the silver trim to look right by freehanding it, so I've been practicing using an airbrush and masking everything off. Once I feel comfortable with this skill, I'll come back to this car and fix the trim. Last, the wheels on the original car have white lettering and seem to be exclusive to the Candy Striper as far as I could tell. I have no way of reproducing this white lettering on the wheels, unfortunately. The roof being the wrong color and not realistically being easy to fix sort of did this model in for me. I'm not going to redo it or anything as it looks good in my display case, but I do plan to do another one and take what I've learned here and apply it to the next one. If you'd like to see me try it again, then please let me know below. A couple quick channel announcements. I'll be going back to a video a week for the next 2 months. This is due to my real job having me travel all over during this time, making videos hard to produce. However, this is probably a good thing as I have purchased some new equipment that I'm excited to start using. One being a special camera that I think will allow me to do more detail work on camera without getting in my way. Another is a resin 3D printer that I absolutely love and has the resolution to print custom wheels and other small items. All this is to further bring up my production value and the general quality of the cars and videos I work on. Anyway, let me know your thoughts below, and as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.